Tully Blanchard, horseman, brainbuster, and maybe a little bit controversial? Yeah, things are about to get interesting. If you know wrestling, you've probably heard his name before, whether it's as part of the iconic Four Horsemen or his legendary tag team, the Brainbusters, with Arn Anderson. Tully wasn't just some guy who decided to become a wrestler one day. He was born into it. His dad, Joe Blanchard, was a big-time wrestler back in the day, so you could say wrestling was in his blood. Tully started wrestling in the 70s, and he quickly learned how to be really, really good. He was like a scientist in the ring, planning every move, every hold, every takedown, and boy, could he talk. He knew how to get the crowd riled up and make them love to hate him. But like any good story, there's more than meets the eye here. We're going behind the scenes to uncover the controversies, the personal struggles, and the complicated life of Tully Blanchard. So, let's go back to 1989. Tully and Arn were tearing it up in WWE as the Brainbusters. These two were unstoppable, and their technical skills made them one of the most respected tag teams around. But their WWE run was coming to an end, and they had big plans to head back to WCW, where they'd first made their names as part of the legendary Four Horsemen. So, a return there seemed like a no-brainer. Fans were excited, and it looked like a smooth transition for the pair. But just when things seemed to be falling into place, everything came crashing down. Right before their return to WCW, Tully failed a drug test for cocaine. WWE had a strict policy at the time, and failing a drug test wasn't something they brushed off. Tully was immediately fired, and that was just the beginning. WCW got wind of the failed test and decided they didn't want to take the risk of hiring him. Just like that, Tully went from being part of one of the best tag teams in wrestling to being out of a job. It wasn't just about losing the paycheck or the opportunity. This moment really derailed Tully's career. He ended up wrestling in the AWA for a while, but let's be honest, it wasn't the same. The buzz, the momentum, the spotlight he'd worked so hard for, it all faded. And to make things worse, this whole situation put a strain on his friendship and partnership with Arn Anderson. While Arn was able to return to WCW and rebuild his career, Tully was left to pick up the pieces on his own. If that wasn't enough, things got even messier for Tully. Years later, in 2020, some pretty serious accusations came out against him. Several female wrestlers, including Allison Kay, accused Tully of racist behavior. There were claims that during a wrestling tour in Japan, he spat in the face of a black female wrestler and used a racial slur. Yeah, heavy stuff. And it got even more complicated when Tessa Blanchard, Tully's own daughter, publicly supported the accusations. Now, Tully denied everything. He said the claims were false and insisted that nothing like that ever happened. But here's the thing. Even without hard evidence, accusations like that stick. It's one of those situations where the damage is done. Whether or not the claims are true, fans and people in the wrestling world started to distance themselves from Tully. His reputation took another hit. And let's face it, those kinds of allegations are tough to bounce back from. On top of all that, Tully has always had a bit of a reputation for being difficult to work with. He's known for being outspoken and having strong opinions, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's definitely ruffled some feathers over the years. One of the biggest examples of this came in 1995 during WCW's Slamboree event. Tully was booked to lose a hardcore match against Terry Funk, but he refused. He thought losing to Funk would hurt his credibility, so he said no. Now, in wrestling, refusing to do the job is a big deal. It's like breaking an unspoken rule. You're supposed to put the match first, not your ego. So when Tully refused, it didn't go over well. It strained his relationship with WCW even more, and it didn't do him any favors when it came to future bookings. It's one of those moments where his strong personality worked against him. And then there's Tully's personal life, which has had its own share of challenges. He's been married 4 times, which, let's be real, isn't easy on anyone. We don't know the details of why those marriages ended. It's not really our place to speculate. But going through that kind of emotional stress over and over again has to be tough. Relationships are hard enough as it is, and adding the pressures of life on the road and wrestling probably didn't help. But one of the most complicated parts of Tully's story is his relationship with his daughter, Tessa Blanchard. Tessa is a big name in wrestling now, carving out her own legacy. But their relationship seems complicated, to say the least. They've worked together before, but those racism allegations against Tully created a major rift. Tessa publicly supported the claims, which it must be tough for Tully to hear. On top of that, there have been rumors of disagreements about wrestling decisions and career moves, which only adds to the tension. It's clear that their relationship isn't exactly smooth sailing, and it's hard not to feel for both of them in that situation. Tully Blanchard's story is a wild ride, full of ups and downs. He's a legend in the wrestling world, no doubt about it. His work with the Four Horsemen and the Brainbusters cemented his place in history. But his career and life are also a reminder of how quickly things can change. Whether it's one bad decision or a reputation that catches up with you, the road to greatness is never easy. So, what do you think about Tully's journey? He's a fascinating figure, and his story raises a lot of questions about fame, reputation, and the choices we make along the way. Now, here's something interesting for the real fans. If you're like me, loving Tully regardless of his bumpy reputation, here's a quick rundown of his epic career, starting with his early life, his rise, his fall, and where he is now. Let's start. Tully Blanchard is one of those names that stands out in the history of professional wrestling. Born on January 22, 1954, he grew up surrounded by the sport thanks to his dad, Joe Blanchard, who was a wrestling promoter and a former star in the American Wrestling Association. For Tully, wrestling wasn't just something he discovered later in life, it was in his blood. As a kid, he was already helping out at events, selling programs and snacks, and later working as a referee before he became a full-time wrestler. Tully had a passion for football. He played at West Texas State University, where he was teammates with other future wrestling stars like Tito Santana and Ted DiBiase. It's amazing to think how many legendary careers started on that same football field. But as much as Tully loved football, wrestling was his destiny. Tully made his professional debut in 1975, trained by his dad and Jose Lario, who helped shape him into the wrestler he would become. He started out in Southwest Championship Wrestling, a promotion run by his father. Tully wasn't just a wrestler there. He was involved behind the scenes, learning the ropes of production and creative work. Right from the start, you could see his talent. He won titles like the SCW Southwest Television Championship and the SCW Southwest Heavyweight Championship several times during this period. He also teamed up with Gino Hernandez to form the Dynamic Duo, a pair of villains who dominated the tag team scene. Together, they won multiple championships and became a force to be reckoned with. In 1984, Tully took his career to the next level by joining Jim Crockett Promotions. This was where he really started to make a name for himself. Right away, he was in the mix for the NWA Television Championship, winning it in a match against Mark Youngblood. Tully held that title for almost a year, defending it against some of the biggest names in wrestling, including Ricky Steamboat. When Steamboat left the promotion, Tully's focus shifted to Dusty Rhodes, sparking one of the most memorable rivalries in wrestling history. Their battles for the TV title were intense, and one of their most famous matches was inside a steel cage at the Great American Bash. Dusty won the title, and even the services of Tully's manager, Baby Doll, for 30 days. Wrestling fans couldn't get enough of the drama. Tully was known for his charisma, technical skills, and ability to tell a story in the ring. One of his most unforgettable rivalries was with Magnum TA. Their feud over the NWA United States Heavyweight Championship had fans on the edge of their seats. It all came to a head at Starrcade 85 in a brutal I Quit match inside a steel cage. This match wasn't just a fight, it was a war. In the end, Magnum forced Tully to quit by driving a jagged piece of a broken chair into his already bloody forehead. It's still considered one of the greatest matches in wrestling history. As the years went on, Tully became part of something even bigger, the Four Horsemen. Formed in 1986 alongside Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, and Ole Anderson, this group changed wrestling forever. They were dominant, capturing championships and controlling the NWA scene. Tully himself won the NWA National Heavyweight Championship and was a key player in the group's success. The Four Horsemen were known for their arrogance, flashy lifestyles, and ability to back it all up in the ring. They feuded with top stars like Dusty Rhodes, Magnum TA, the Road Warriors, and the Rock and Roll Express. They always made an impact wherever they went. Eventually, Tully and Arn Anderson began focusing on the tag team division. They worked so well together, and their matches were some of the best tag team wrestling fans had ever seen. They won the NWA World Tag Team Championship after an intense rivalry with the Rock and Roll Express. Later, the duo moved to the World Wrestling Federation, WWF, where they became known as the Brain Busters, managed by Bobby the Brain Heenan. They kept their winning ways going, even capturing the WWF World Tag Team Championship in 1990. Tully found himself in the American Wrestling Association, briefly, aligning with the Destruction Crew and even winning a match at Superclash 4. However, his time there was short-lived. The wrestling world continued to call, and in 1993, WCW approached Tully with an offer to reform the Four Horsemen. Unfortunately, the offer wasn't up to his expectations, and WCW replaced him with Paul Roma. Tully did make a one-night return to WCW in 1994 at Slamboree, where he faced Terry Funk. The match ended in a double disqualification, and Tully moved on again. The mid-1990s saw him in Extreme Championship Wrestling, ECW, where he challenged Shane Douglas for the ECW World Heavyweight Championship. Although Tully didn't capture the title, his matches reminded fans of his talent and grit. Even as Tully's in-ring career slowed down, he wasn't done adding to his legacy. In 1998, he teamed with Barry Windham, another Four Horsemen alumnus, to win the NWA World Tag Team titles. That same year, he appeared at the NWA's 50th anniversary show, further solidifying his place as a respected veteran in the wrestling world. In the 2000s, Tully briefly worked for WWE as a producer, contributing his knowledge behind the scenes. He also appeared in various nostalgic and celebratory events, such as Wrestle Reunion in 2005 and the NWA Legends Fan Fest in 2007. Tully's connection to the Four Horsemen remained strong, and he appeared in the 2007 DVD documentary, Ric Flair and the Four Horsemen. In 2012, he was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame alongside his Horsemen teammates. By the late 2010s, Tully's career took yet another surprising turn. In 2019, he joined All Elite Wrestling, AEW, as the exclusive advisor to Shawn Spears. It was clear that Tully still had the fire to be part of the wrestling business, and his presence added a lot to AEW's storylines. He later aligned with FTR, managing the duo as they captured the AEW World Tag Team Championship in 2021. Tully even stepped back into the ring, teaming with FTR to defeat Jurassic Express in a memorable match. Tully's time with FTR ended in 2022 after a storyline disagreement, but he wasn't out of the picture for long. He transitioned to AEW's sister promotion, Ring of Honor, where he managed a group called Tully Blanchard Enterprises. This faction included the Gates of Agony and Brian Cage. However, by mid-2022, the group was sold in a storyline to Prince Nana, becoming part of the Embassy. Shortly after, Tully quietly departed AEW and Ring of Honor. Tully Blanchard's career is a testament to resilience and adaptability. From his iconic days as a member of the Four Horsemen to his managerial roles in modern wrestling, Tully has done it all. He's faced ups and downs, but his passion for wrestling never wavered. Today, Tully's influence can still be seen in the business. He's part of a wrestling legacy that spans generations, and his daughter, Tessa Blanchard, is proof that the Blanchard name continues to shine in the wrestling world. Tully Blanchard's story isn't just about championships and rivalries, it's about a lifelong love for professional wrestling. Whether he was stealing the show in the ring, mentoring talent, or captivating fans as a manager, Tully's dedication to the sport remains undeniable. And that's the incredible story of Tully Blanchard, a true legend in the world of professional wrestling. From his early days working under his father's promotion to becoming one of the most feared members of the Four Horsemen, Tully has left an unforgettable mark on the sport. His career wasn't just about championships and rivalries, it was about passion, resilience, and an unmatched ability to entertain fans around the world. If you enjoyed learning about Tully's journey, make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button And turn on notifications so you never miss another deep dive into the careers of wrestling's greatest icons. We'd love to hear your thoughts too. What's your favorite Tully Blanchard moment? Is it his brutal I Quit match with Magnum TA, his days with the Four Horsemen, or maybe his unexpected return to AEW? Let us know in the comments below. We love hearing from you. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more stories about the legends, the rivalries, and the moments that made professional wrestling what it is today. Until next time, take care and keep loving wrestling.